The humiliation on 47th Street ***. Chicago was known for its deep-rooted history, its soulful blues, towering skyline, and rich cultural diversity. But under the bright lights and bustling city streets, there still lingered an undercurrent of prejudice, especially in neighborhoods where tension between the police and communities of color had become almost routine. On the South Side, in the heart of Bronzeville, this uneasy balance was about to be shattered in the most public and humiliating way. It was a cool Tuesday morning when Amara Johnson, a 32-year-old black woman, stepped into her usual routine. Dressed in a sharp navy blue blazer, slacks, and a caramel-toned silk blouse, she exuded confidence and grace. Amara was a Harvard Law graduate, a rising civil rights attorney, and well-respected in her community. She wasn't just a symbol of success, she was living proof that perseverance could break generational cycles. But to one man in uniform, all that didn't matter. Amara had just stepped out of Java Junction, her favorite local cafe on 47th Street, latte in hand, when a police cruiser screeched to a halt beside her. The loud, abrupt sound made several pedestrians turn their heads. The door slammed open and out stepped Officer Brian Kessler, a white, broad-shouldered cop with a history of questionable conduct. He was known in the neighborhood for harassing black youth under the pretense of routine checks. Many had complained, but little ever came of it. His reputation was one of arrogance and unchecked power. "Hey, you," he barked, pointing at Amara as she walked calmly down the sidewalk. She stopped, puzzled, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," she replied firmly but politely. "You matched the description of a suspect in a recent shoplifting report," Kessler snapped, already walking toward her with his hand on his holster. Amara blinked, shocked. "Excuse me? I just came out of a coffee shop. You must be mistaken." Kessler's voice rose. "I said you matched the description. Brown jacket, black pants, medium build, curly hair. That's you." Amara looked down at her tailored outfit, nothing like what he'd described. "This is a blazer, not a jacket. And I have legal documents in my bag showing exactly where I've been. I'd appreciate it if you didn't make assumptions." But Kessler wasn't backing down. Instead, he began speaking louder, attracting more attention. "I need to see some ID. Now." Crowds began to form. A few people took out their phones, others muttered under their breath. Amara, trying to remain composed, slowly pulled out her ID. "Here. I'm a lawyer. You have no reason to detain me." Kessler grabbed the ID with unnecessary force. "Don't get smart with me," he growled. "People like you always think you're above the law." "People like me?" Amara asked, her voice hardening. "You heard me," Kessler snapped. Then, without warning, he reached for her bag. "Do not touch my personal property without a warrant." Amara shouted, stepping back. The officer shoved her backward. She stumbled but caught herself before falling. The crowd gasped. Phones were definitely recording now. "You're resisting arrest," he yelled. "For what?" Amara shot back. "You have no grounds. This is harassment." Kessler didn't answer. He grabbed her wrist and yanked it behind her back. The coffee cup dropped to the ground, shattering across the sidewalk. Amara winced in pain, her voice still strong. "This is illegal detainment. I am a civil rights attorney and I know my rights." People around them were yelling now. "Leave her alone," someone shouted. "That's Amara Johnson. She's not a criminal." Another voice chimed in. "Yo, she helped my cousin beat a false charge last year. What the hell is this?" But Kessler was immune to the outrage. He handcuffed Amara in front of the community she served and humiliated her in broad daylight. Her bag was tossed to the ground, papers spilling everywhere, legal briefs, case notes, and affidavits scattering like leaves in the wind. A young woman nearby live-streamed the entire incident on Instagram. The caption read, "Racist cop arrests black attorney in Bronzeville for walking while black. Share this." After what felt like an eternity, a second officer, Officer Marquez, a younger Latina cop, arrived on the scene. She took one look at Amara and instantly recognized her. "Wait, Brian," she said cautiously. "I think you've made a mistake." "She fits the description," Kessler snapped. "No, she doesn't," Marquez said more firmly. That description came from a gas station a mile away. The suspect was caught on camera wearing a red hoodie and jeans. Not a lawyer in business attire carrying case files. Kessler paused. His face flushed red, not with embarrassment but with anger. Well, we'll let the precinct sort it out. No, Marquez insisted. We need to release her now. After several tense minutes, Amara was finally uncuffed, her wrists red and sore. Kessler didn't apologize. He didn't even look at her. But Amara wasn't silent. You will regret this, she said quietly but firmly. Not because I'm angry but because this injustice, will not go unanswered. Kessler scoffed and turned away. Do whatever you want. You people always do. Amara's jaw clenched. She picked up her bag, straightened her back, and walked away without another word. By the time she returned to her office, the video had already gone viral. Over 200,000 views in under an hour. Celebrities, civil rights leaders, and even fellow attorneys were sharing it. The hashtags #JusticeForAmara and #WalkingWhileBlack began trending on social media. But this wasn't about fame or pity for Amara. This was about something much bigger. A reckoning. A fight. And Officer Kessler had no idea who he had just messed with. The fall of the badge ***. The courtroom was packed. It had only been 3 weeks since the incident on 47th Street, but the wheels of justice were turning faster than anyone had anticipated. National outcry, relentless media coverage, and overwhelming public pressure had left city officials with no room for delay. Amara Johnson's civil rights lawsuit had evolved from a single case of racial profiling into a full-blown investigation of institutional corruption within the Chicago Police Department. The city's legal team sat rigidly at one end of the courtroom. Across from them, Amara, poised, focused, and dressed in an elegant black suit, sat beside Judge Harold Price and her team. There was no fear in her eyes. Just purpose. Case number 24-893. Johnson vs. City of Chicago et al., the clerk called. Judge Martinez, known for her fairness and firm hand, presided. Counselors, begin. Amara stood. Your Honor, she began, her voice resonating through the courtroom, what happened to me on that sidewalk was not just about one officer's prejudice. It was about a system that trained him to see me as a threat. That protected him when he acted on his bias. That silenced those who dared speak out. She held up the whistleblower file. These are internal documents never meant to see the light of day. They reveal a chilling pattern of abuse, racial profiling, and suppression of complaints by Officer Brian Kessler. These weren't isolated incidents. They were institutional failures. The courtroom murmured. Amara continued. We have witness testimony, body cam footage, social media videos, medical records from past victims, and perhaps most importantly, proof that the department not only knew about Kessler's actions but actively covered them up. She walked to the jury box. This case isn't just about me. It's about every black person who has ever been harassed, silenced, or made to feel powerless by those meant to protect us. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Ms. Johnson, does your team intend to submit this whistleblower evidence for the court record? We do, Your Honor. And we request that it be admitted under federal whistleblower protection. The judge nodded. So ordered. Kessler, sitting behind his counsel at the defense table, paled. He hadn't looked Amara in the eye once. Over the next week, the courtroom became the epicenter of a city's reckoning. Testimonies poured in. A young black man named Jalen Reed recounted how Kessler pulled him from his car at gunpoint 3 years ago, for having expired tags. He slammed my face into the hood, Jalen said. Said I fit the description. Never explained what description that was. A former dispatcher admitted under oath that supervisors often ignored excessive force complaints. They'd just say, it's Kessler being Kessler, she recalled. But perhaps the most powerful moment came when Officer Marquez took the stand. I saw everything, she said. Ms. Johnson never resisted. Never raised her voice. She complied fully. But Officer Kessler was already set on making an example of her. I believe he did it because of who she is, and what she looks like. Her voice cracked. I joined the force to serve my community. That day, I realized I had to help protect it from some of the people wearing the badge. Amara watched from the plaintiff's table, her heart tight in her chest. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who finally had the courage to say, enough. Outside the courtroom, the city was watching. Every evening, Rallies were held outside CPD headquarters. Justice for Amara signs waved in the crowd. Local pastors, teachers, and activists joined forces. High school students staged walkouts. Black-owned businesses posted messages of support in their windows. For the first time in years, the South Side felt unified by hope, not just frustration. Then came the moment no one expected. The Federal Department of Justice announced it would be opening a civil rights investigation into the Chicago Police Department's 3rd District. Kessler was suspended without pay. Internal Affairs raided his locker. What they found only made things worse. A burner phone with messages laced in racial slurs, screenshots of social media posts mocking black arrestees, and a list of suspicious individuals, nearly all of them black or Latino. The city had no choice. Kessler was fired. But it didn't stop there. 2 commanders who buried complaints were demoted. A civilian oversight board was formed with mandatory community representation. And most significantly, the department announced a full overhaul of its bias training and accountability protocols. Back in court as the trial neared its close, Amara delivered her final argument. "We live in a city of deep wounds," she said, addressing the jury. "But we also live in a city of deep strength. When one of us is publicly humiliated, we all feel it. But when one of us stands up, when one of us says, 'No more,' that courage spreads." She paused. "I didn't ask to be a symbol. I only wanted a coffee. I only wanted to walk home. But because one man decided I was a threat, because of my skin, because of my pride, because of my refusal to be small, I was handcuffed in front of my neighbors." She stepped forward. "I ask you not just to give a verdict. I ask you to send a message. That racism in uniform is not invisible. That no badge is above the law. That dignity cannot be silenced." The jury deliberated for only 4 hours. Their verdict: guilty of unlawful detainment, racial discrimination, and civil rights violations. Amara was awarded $5 million in damages, all of which she pledged to reinvest into legal aid services for victims of police abuse. The courtroom erupted in applause. Even Judge Martinez nodded solemnly in approval. Weeks later, Amara stood again on the steps of City Hall. This time, she wasn't addressing the press as a victim, but as a catalyst. "Our fight isn't over," she said. "But today we proved something powerful. The law can still serve justice, when we refuse to let it look away." Behind her stood dozens of supporters, many of whom had once suffered in silence. Now they stood tall, holding signs that read, "We see you, we stand with you." As Amara walked away from the podium, the wind caught the hem of her blazer. She didn't look back. Officer Kessler had tried to shame her. But in doing so, he had handed her the very weapon he feared most, the truth. And the truth had ruined him.